He's done it. 4. Balotelli. Aguero. Cahill. Cahill. Tim Cahill has done it again. What a goal by Tim Cahill.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Premier League Nightclub podcast, a podcast mini, I should say, with Damo and Woody. Woody, how you doing? We're back for episode 2.
Oh mate, I'm good, and I'm excited to have another mini, and we've got a few other things lined up. 2 podcasts releasing this week, believe it or not, absolutely huge week for us here at the Nightclub. Nevertheless though, I'm very keen for this one because as we decided last week, we're doing an episode on transfers. And it just happens to be that I've also started a career mode on FIFA 20 with Morecambe FC,
oh, yeah.
which I'm pretty keen about. And you know, early days, but look, my transfers are looking good.
What's the transfer budget with that club?
It was 900,000 quid, so it was not much. So
not much to play with at all.
No,
I do find that that's way better to do though. Like starting with the big clubs, it's just way too easy. Way too easy. And even the middle tier clubs, I remember playing with Inter Milan maybe during their bad patch, I should say, in about 2014. Even then was too easy because they still had 1 or 2 players worth 40, 50 million.
Yeah.
Get rid of them and you just cash in. So it's always better to do it with the smaller clubs. All right, well, Woody, as you said, it is transfers, and we got like so many players we could mention in the next 25 minutes. It's not funny. Like doing the research, even in the notes in front of me, I reckon we've got 100 players here that we could mention.
Oh, easy.
I feel like one interesting thing though, before we get stuck into the whole transfer episode, is just talking about how the transfer window might work, given the whole situation around coronavirus now, because obviously the season's probably going to be played in June, if it is played at all. And it's going to eat into a lot of the transfer window, and it'll just be interesting to see how the FA and UEFA work together to sort something out, because, you know, let's be honest with you, like, no one really knows what the hell is going to happen tomorrow, let alone in 3 or 4 months' time. So it'll be interesting to see whether deals get, delayed or cancelled between clubs and so on. I think it's something to look out for.
Well, it's really interesting, because I know there was talk about reducing the transfer window for the English, or the Premier League, back down to the day that the season starts. So essentially opening weekend. However, I reckon that would have to continually be an overlap now with the season, the transfer window, considering that the window is going to be significantly decreased in time. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with the FA, and I guess just the European the European clubs in general and the competitions, to see sort of what's going to happen, and if the overlap is going to continue to run, because I just can't see really another solution, and I think it would be a huge issue if they only had it open for 3 weeks.
For sure. Alrighty, and one other thing I did forget to mention is that at the end of last Nightclub Mini, I did mention that Julia Roberts had been, sort of engaging with a few football fans on social media, and I didn't know why, and probably stereotyped a little bit is to say what's she doing on this player's profile, but turns out she's actually a massive, massive football fan. She's got photos with Messi, Ronaldo, Modric, and like all the Man United players. She's a big Man United fan. She's visited Old Trafford a few times and watched a few games. So I reckon, Woody, we started a hashtag on the socials. We get it trending. Hashtag get Julia Roberts on the Nightclub. That is the goal now. That's what's going to happen. All Whether it be next week, next year, or next decade, Julia Roberts will be on this podcast.
Mate, I don't think I won't be able to stand you for the next decade to be still doing a podcast with you. Speaking of which, actually, I'm going to bring up a funny story here, because I think anyone that follows the Nightclub knows that I run the Insta, you run the Twitter. Okay? And I've hopped on...
Nah, this is unfair. This is so unfair.
No way. I hopped on the Insta yesterday just to see like what sort of activity we get overnight. And I've gone online and I've seen that the first inbox is to Cesc Fabregas.
Mate, it was a fair shout.
Asking him to come on the podcast. And I've just thought to myself, who the hell has done this? And of course it's Damon, because Sam doesn't log into the podcast. So you've gone and messaged your old mate Cesc Fabregas as if you were best mates to try and come on the podcast. You may as well have asked Messi or Ronaldo, mate. Honestly.
Hey, I know people who are like not even professional footballers who don't allow DMs. Cesc allows DMs. He's super, super active on social media, especially during this quarantine time. So, like, get on board. It was a good opportunity. And if he replies, you know, you're going to have to apologise to me. And it's going to be absolute scenes if we do get him on.
Hey, about this. If he does get on, I'll apologise to you on air, live Insta story. But I think I'll pencil it in as your best mates with Cesc Fabregas. Basically.
Yeah, lock it in. Alrighty, Woody, let's get stuck into this transfer episode. And I think we should probably just kick off with Liverpool and what they've been able to do recently, because it's intriguing with some of these signings, and they've turned them into world class players. Lots to do with Jurgen Klopp, but just the foundation they've set for these players. I look at Mane, 34 million. Fabinho, probably towards the end of the rebuild, 39 million. Robertson, 8 million. Firmino, 30. Salah, 42. It really has been an incredible, I will say 3 to 5 years in the transfer market for Liverpool.
Yeah, for sure. And those sums are actually pretty neat and tidy and a little bit smaller than what a lot of clubs are playing for those quality players. If you were to sell the likes of Mane, Firmino and Salah right now, they would be 100% like booked to go over 80 mil. So they're steals and a half, and what Klopp's been able to do with them is a masterclass on its own. But then as well, they made 50 mil profit on Suarez, which sort of was, after he left, sort of kicked off their Klopp rebuild, I guess. And from there, if you look back, and obviously they dropped so much on 75 mil on Van Dijk, but took him to a Champions League final win. So that has paid off in spades as well. But if you look at a little bit further down the line as well, you look at Andy Robertson, 8 mil, mate, bargains galore in that Liverpool team, and the value of them now is just astronomical compared to what they were worth when they first got transferred over to Liverpool. So, nonetheless, Liverpool have been really tidy in the market in the last few years, haven't they, Damo?
Yeah, for sure. And we spoke about Sadio Mane and what he's been able to do, and how he'd probably go for maybe 100 million these days. But we'll go back to his previous club, Southampton. Crazy business over the last decade. I mean, I'll give you some names here, Woody. Luke Shaw, Virgil van Dijk, Alderweireld, Klein, Lallana, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Wanyama, Mane, Tadic, Pele, Bale, and there are plenty more. And that's 300 mil profit they've made on those players. And a lot of those players, I look at Bale and Oxlade-Chamberlain, have actually gone on to another club. So they probably could have even maxed out their value even more.
Yeah, well, even the likes of Wanyama as well, really. Lallana, all of them. Like, if you look at these players, far out. Southampton are sort of like, I don't know. I'm just trying to. They're sort of the Dortmund of the Premier League, really. Like, they just make so much profit off their players. It's
probably one disappointment for them that they haven't been able to turn into a Wolves or a Leicester and get their league position to show the business they do off field. Yeah,
well, I guess that's also an interesting conversation as well, because if players get too good for the club, as in I'm talking like Bale and Van Dijk sort of areas, if they get to that class, there's no way they're staying there and hanging around. But if they're a little bit less, like, for example, a Wanyama or maybe a Tadic, like they might stay. And if you look at the likes of Wolves as well, with Moutinho and Raul Jimenez and stuff as well, like, these are players that are nowhere near astronomical class, but they still stay at their club because they're better than the average footballer. But
it's also probably to do with age as well.
Yeah, but like I understand that, but then also sort of ask the question: if players get way too good for a club, how can you ever expect them to stay? I think like there is such thing as players getting too good for a club, and like they run their course very quickly, I think. And you look at the likes of Bale; they ran their course way too quickly.
For sure. All right, and let's have a quick look at some absolute disaster classes. I think Radamel Falcao, when he came to the Premier League, although it was loan, 6 million fee to Man United, and then passed on to Chelsea for another try. We'll say that, and that didn't work either. He had dismal time in the Premier League.
Disaster, absolute. Oh mate, can't even describe how bad he was in the league. Into overpowered front lines as well in Chelsea and Man United. Just didn't fit at all. Seems to be finding his niche back at Monaco, back where he belongs, but he was a flop and a half for the Premier League, wasn't he?
the big one, probably the most famous one for a while there, Fernando Torres, 50 million from Liverpool to Chelsea. It was like Chelsea signed a different player than what they thought they were buying. He obviously, probably one of the most marketable players in the league at the time. Just the Spanish maestro, really. He created everything for Liverpool. He finished everything for Liverpool, and Chelsea couldn't believe what arrived at their front door. And then I look at other guys like Andy Carroll, 35 million. Islam Slimani to Leicester for 30 million.
No, it's Slimani.
Slimani.
You said the other day when we were planning this one after the last ep, you said Islam Salami.
That was a bit of banter. No,
get out. You seriously, you can't even pronounce. Anyway, looking at the list, Bakayoko, he's a funny one because he's pissed off I think he went to AC on loan. He's still on the books at Chelsea, but he was a flop and a half after a huge season at Monaco, I think, when they came second and got to the quarters in the Champions League as well. But far out there, like just flops and a half when you look at these lists. And like we said, Damo, we could honestly go on for days about how many flops there are in the Premier League. You look at likes of Bebe as well back in the day. Just horrible transfers. You just don't know how the hell they've gone down.
For sure.
But talking of business in general, we'll go to the most expensive Premier League XI, which we're running with a 4-4-2 because we've tried to fit in as much money as we can into the XI. And we'll kick it off. Kepa Azpilicueta. Kepa, 70 mil to Chelsea.
Speaking of pronouncing players' names.
Anyway, Kepa to Chelsea, 70 mil. And they paid 70 mil for a back-chatting rat, honestly. Just trash business from Chelsea. And Damo, do you want to take us across the back four?
The back four, Mendy, 50 million. Again, and part of that team that made the quarters with Monaco in the Champions League. So lots of hype around him. And, of course, big club Manchester City came and pounced. Virgil van Dijk, well, 75 million now looks a bargain, doesn't it? Harry Maguire, 85 million. Still question marks, but still time to justify that deal. And another Man United player, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, at right back for 50 million.
And we don't stop there with Man United players. It's absolutely littered this XI with some Red Devils units. And the next one will kick off with Angel Di Maria for 60 mil left mid. What a spell he had. I remember the amazing goal he scored against Leicester.
The chip.
And then I think it was a couple of weeks later was the 5-2 capitulation at MK Dons. Far out, that was grim scenes. But then we'll kick off Pogba as well, another Man United man, sitting next to him for 90 million. Classified as an academy product. I don't know how the hell that's Man United have made that fly, honestly. But 90 million, yeah, it seems like they'll probably recruit most of that if he pisses off to Madrid or Barca or back to Juve at the end of the season. But then we got two City players, don't we, Damo?
We do. We got Rodrigo in central midfield, 60 million. Again, one of those players similar to Harry Maguire who probably has done more than reasonable job, but for the price tag, he'll be looking to build over the next few seasons. And, of course, Riyad Mahrez, who was an absolute steal for Leicester, and then a big money transfer to Manchester City. We've got him in right midfield. Would he kick us away with those two strikers?
Ooh, back to the Red Devils, and we're kicking off with Romelu Lukaku, 75 mil, and obviously they sold him off to Inter Milan for a profit. I think they sold him for 85 mil, so 10 mil profit there. However, he just didn't really click at Man United, and I think it was probably better that he saw the back door. And then also Alvaro Morata, 60 mil to Chelsea.
I love how you can't say it without laughing.
We're looking at these two strikers, and they both didn't really fit in the Premier League. And I don't know how Morata honestly got sold sold to Atletico for 58 mil. I have no clue. He was a spud straight out of the oven for Chelsea when he came over.
It's a funny thing, though.
Just looking at this,
like all the players.
Yeah,
I was just going to say all the players that have left those clubs. So we look at Lukaku, Morata, Di Maria. Those are the three that have left. I think all of them have been sold for the exact price they've been bought. I think Di Maria was about 50-something million to PSG. Lukaku was about 70 million to Inter Milan. It's incredible how much the transfer market grows, and that's why we could only do really the last decade, because everything else was just, it's not comparable. Do you know what I mean, Woody?
Yeah, completely. And I honestly, I think now looking at the current state of world economic affairs and the pay cuts that people around the world and sports players have had to forego, I'm fairly sure that I reckon the times of high wages and extremely high transfer fees might be down the bin, because I'm not sure how viable that is anymore with how much money is actually being wiped off stock markets and international economic markets in themselves. So we'll see if we get these sort of fees in the near future.
All right,
I think they'll be far and few between.
True. Quick question, Woody, before we wrap up and head into winners and losers. Out of this 11 here, who has been a success? Who would you give a tick?
Van Dijk, 100%.
Yep.
I wouldn't give a tick to Kepa and Mendy. Of course not Mendy. Maguire got the captaincy. You'd have to give him a tick. Wan-Bissaka, you'd have to give him a tick. Di Maria, I would give a tick.
Are you serious? You got to be joking.
No, hold the phone here. He had like 13 assists in 26 appearances to go along with 4 or 5 goals. I'm fairly sure off the top of my head. He was successful, but he just didn't click at the club. And they recruit most of the money from him as well. So, like he wasn't a cross, but for the season he's there, made a huge impact. Rodri, Pogba wouldn't give a tick, no way. Mahrez, you can't justify a super sub for 60 mil, in my opinion. Morata, no. Lukaku, no.
Hang on. Wait, so you're saying, just to get this right, that Di Maria for 60 million, who had a couple of assists against lesser opposition, because he didn't actually get a goal or an assist. I think the one assist came against Arsenal, if you're looking at big clubs. And then you're saying Mahrez, you can't justify, who's won the league twice.
Hold up. He won the league on the bench twice.
Oh. Mate, he's had third most assists in the league this season as well.
I understand, but the thing is, if he started every week, then it'd be a different story. It would be a different story, 60 mil. Okay? Now, he comes on as a super sub, and yes, I understand, but the thing is, I just feel as if for 60 mil, you want a player that's starting in your team. That's for me. I don't know.
Well,
and obviously Pep has a huge, not turnover, but rotation ratio. And Mahrez does get game time, does start games. But for 60 mil, for a guy that I tip to be my player of the season as well, I just want him to start more to justify that price tag.
Oh, fair enough. Maybe you've got your own personal bias on that or personal views, but I'm going...
I tell you what, he wouldn't be getting a game for 60 mil at Morecambe FC if he's not starting at my transfer. He's not happening.
I'm saying Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Van Dijk are probably the only flat out ticks, and I'm giving Mahrez a tick. The rest, I'm not having a bar of. All right, Woody, are we happy to move into winners and losers?
Let's do it.
Time for winners and losers.
Oi, did someone say winners and losers?
Sure did, mate.
Alright, so I thought we'd do winners and losers this week because obviously this is one of 2 pods coming out this week, and there's not going to be a winners and losers in our episode 38 that's going to come out. But in saying that, there will probably be an on or offside. So I figured we're getting pretty much a bit of everything in 2 podcasts. Does that make sense, Woody?
Yeah.
Alright, so my winner of the transfer window in the last decade has got to be N'Golo Kante. Now, I've already stuffed up one name this episode, and there's not a chance in hell I can pronounce the team he came from to go to Leicester. Do you want to help me out here, Woody?
KN.
SMKN?
SMKN.
Is it as simple as that, or is it like some sort of French...
Yeah, mate, you probably can't even pronounce Leicester, by the way you're going this episode.
Alright, let me go. Alright, 4.5 mil. Some websites said 5.5 mil, but we'll just say around 5 million. Kante's arrival to the Premier League in 2015, it just has to be one of the steals in history, to be honest. He changed Leicester City forever. He arrived and played in a 4-4-2 under Claudio Ranieri. They won the league title in that 2015-16 season. And I've actually got a little snippet here. I'll read you something from an article that was posted just at the end of that season. Ready? It's in regards to him being bought by a bigger club after his time at Leicester.
Yeah, hit me, mate. Come on, hit me.
It's difficult to imagine, though, that Kante will ever replicate this level of performance upon a different side. Big clubs simply don't play the kind of reactive counter-attacking system that Leicester have perfected this season, and therefore Kante won't ever be able to dominate a midfield to this extent. Could a guy be any more wrong? Could he be? This guy ends up playing for France, winning a World Cup.
Who said that?
I can't remember his name, but he's completely botched that. Completely botched it. And N'Golo Kante has to be my winner. Woody, who is your winner?
It sounds Roy Keane sort of areas. To be honest with you. But my winner is Arsenal. And that is through the transfer of Cesar Azpilicueta from Marseille to Chelsea in 2012. It was just a meager 6.5 mil, and Chelsea found themselves an absolute bargain and club legend, right? When they bought Aspi, he went through a stretch where he only missed 2 Premier League games in 4 seasons.
That's nuts.
Definition of Mr. Versatile. Stick Mr. Versatile on the back of his jersey, I reckon. And has played all across their backline. Undoubtedly a Chelsea legend. Mourinho once said that he wished he had 11 Azpilicuetas on the pitch, and honestly, I couldn't be more in agreement with Mourinho. I never thought I'd say that, but Azpilicueta is a machine. If you watch him play, he is redefining centre back position as he goes so far this season with his runs into the box. He's just a class player, and I'll go with mentioning as well when Arsenal bought Hector Bellerin 500k from the Barca youth system back in 2011. They found themselves one of the best young right backs at the time, and a future vice captain, which he is now, a potential captain once Alba leaves eventually, basically for Madrid or Barca. But Damo, let's kick back on to losers, and you've got a pretty saucy one to kick us off, don't you?
I do, mate, and it's Mario Balotelli from AC Milan to Liverpool for 16 mil. Now, I know 16 mil is not an awful amount right now, or probably for the last 5 to 10 years, but after that 13-14 season, Liverpool faced one of their toughest transfer windows in their history, to be honest. They were going to lose Luis Suarez to Barcelona. That was almost a given. And a few names were thrown around in terms of potential replacements. Alexis Sanchez from Barcelona was one, because he was on the way out. And Dele Alli from MK Dons at the time. Now, Brendan Rodgers actually said since that he wanted both of them. He wanted Sanchez and Alli. Talks with Dele Alli broke down, and he went to Tottenham for 5 million. And of course, Alexis Sanchez went to Arsenal and had a really successful time there until he went to Man United. So 16 million for Balotelli was a panic buy, and the repercussions of that buy really set Liverpool back. Of course, Mario's poor form caused real tension between him and Rodgers. Team chemistry took a massive hit, and that was probably Liverpool's strongest, commodity that previous season. As I said, Ali went to Spurs and Sanchez went to Arsenal, and it just set Liverpool back a few years, although you could argue that if it wasn't for Balotelli's poor form, Rodgers would have never have got the sack and Klopp would have never gone to Liverpool. But, ignoring all that...
Mate, hold up. Do you know who Rodgers had as attacking options? Barini, Balotelli, and Lambert.
Yeah, it was...
And I remember this iconic...
He did have Coutinho
from
still.
Sky Sports. Yeah, but 888 minutes they played, combined, 0 goals. Mate, that's ridiculous. When you have a front three like that, you're calling for yourself to be sacked. All
right, Woody, who is your loser of the transfer window?
All right, my loser has to be the Sanchez-Mkhitaryan swap duel between Manchester United and Arsenal. That was grim, one of the worst transfer deals of all time. So basically, in 2018, when Man U did a direct swap with Arsenal for Mickey for Sanchez, later on, we find out that Sanchez is on £500,000 a week in wages at Old Trafford, and then he just goes on to, in 45 appearances, just to bag 5 goals. Now, that set them back because De Gea and Rashford saw the figures that were coming in on the checks on Sanchez's wage. And they're like, bloody hell, we want more money than this. Held him for ransom, and they sold on their contracts, ended up signing huge ones on huge wages. Anyway, Sanchez basically, if we look in Moneyball style, gets paid roughly £27 million a year on a 4.5-year deal. So if we add it all up, 10 million agent fees, 29 mil sign-on fee, that's around £180 million combined owed to Alexis Sanchez, a 4.5-year deal. And now they're paying more than half of his wages. I'm pretty sure 65% of that £500,000 a week for him to be at Inter injured. That's how much they're paying him.
That's crazy. That honestly, yeah,
Crazy.
I do have to agree. In terms of swap deals, it's the worst of all time because Mkhitaryan was reasonably awful for Arsenal as well, and he's now at Roma. So that was just an absolute shit show for both clubs.
Oh, mate, grim scenes. And Damo, although we wouldn't take any of those at our respective clubs, even on career mode on FIFA, we'll look onto our transfer wish list. Who do we want to see in the Premier League come next season or in the near future? I'm gonna lay down a ground rule. We're gonna leave out the likes of Mbappe, Sancho, Erling Haaland, and João Felix as well because they're just mega superstars, and who knows if they'll eventually come. I'm talking sort of the next tier down.
All right. Well, I'm probably sure I've mentioned this on the pod before, but Kai Havertz from Bayer Leverkusen, massive fan of him, and I think Liverpool have been linked, Man United have been linked. I know it's pretty standard for any of these youngish players to be linked with these sort of clubs. But yeah, Havertz, I can't see him not coming to the Premier League eventually, so I'm very keen for him. Woody, anyone else?
Mate, Edison Cavani. It has to be Edison Cavani. I put together the graphic when he got linked with Chelsea, and I was so freaking keen to see him in the Premier League as well. No doubt he'd require some huge wages to get over the channel from Spain to England. However, I just love to see him. He's such a personality, and even though he's a bit older, huge goal-scoring record and huge guy you just want to market the Premier League for me. Damo, what about you? Who's your next one?
I tell you what, there's one guy that I am baffled to this day that he only just got to Borussia Dortmund in 2018, and that's Axel Witsel. This guy was a superstar for Zenit for like 5 years. He's now 31, so if he comes to the Premier League, we're probably not going to see the absolute best of him. So he sort of has to...
Is he 31?
Yeah, he's 31. He had a really good spell at Zenit. He was on fire, and I just thought it was criminal that no club in the Premier League had a look. And he went to Zenit for 40 million, and Dortmund bought him for 20 million. 5 years later, absolute steal. I just reckon if Witsel comes to the Premier League, it has to be this transfer window. It's not going to happen. It's a complete dream that I get to see him in the Premier League, but I just love to. I think he's got the real, physical attributes to perform well in the Premier League. So disappointed that it hasn't happened, and I'm disappointed that it probably won't ever happen. Woody, anyone else?
Yeah, all right. No, I'll just quickly touch on Axel Witsel. Obviously, he was at Zenit, and we're looking... I swear Zenit and the Russian League are just graveyards for Premier League wannabe transfers. And look at the likes of Ezekiel Garay, who never made it. And then I looked to Turkey as well. Wesley Sneijder at Galatasaray. He was linked with every team every summer. How did he not get there?
Hulk as well. Hulk, another one. How did he not come to Chelsea?
Exactly.
Chelsea was the club that wanted him, yeah. So it's over the years we've had so many players just go under the radar, and then on the other hand, so many players, get bought for incredible amounts of money and they barely even deserve a cent of it. So sometimes that's just how life is. Yeah.
And I reckon, Damo, that's probably calls it as a close for the Nightclub Mini Ep 2 transfer episode. And Damo, if you wanted to find us on the Twitter, where can you catch us?
You can find us on the Twitter at PL Nightclub. And Woody, where can you find us on the Insta?
You can find us at Premier League Nightclub. Just clicked over 2,000 followers as well. So it is kicking off on the Insta platform. Massive scenes. And we've got massive scenes coming up as well for the next episode. Damo, do you want to give me a hint at all? Anyone?
I reckon we just tell them. Like, this episode is going to be released today, so it's a Tuesday. 2 days from now, 48 hours from now, if you're listening to this. Might be even less. It might already be out by the time you're listening to it. Episode 38. We are going to have our first athlete on the show. Woody, do you want to say his name? Just introduce him.
What an athlete he is. John Iredale plays for Wolfsburg Machine. Aussie striker. He's going to absolutely lead the Olyroos line heading to the Olympics as well. What a man. He's coming on and he's kicking off our Aussies Undercovered segment as well, where we're going to try and bring all the listeners some special Aussies around the world who's flying the flag for the
great nation
the Down Under as well. For the great nation, Australia Down Under. We'll see where their journey has taken them across the world and how they're making it big time as well. So, Damo, should we call it quits today?
Let's do it. Let's wrap it up, Woody. I'll see you in about 2 days' time for a massive episode, and we'll see everyone else in 2 days for a massive episode.
Exactly. And cheers, guys. Thanks for boogieing at the nightclub. See ya.